was not sent off for this rude tackling, for this daylight robbery foul that was not given, not rewarded by the refs. Okay, so I would like to move on with the comeback player of the season. So
Shall I start?
Yeah, please.
I mean, the obvious choice is the obvious choice, but I went for a different guy.
Okay, so maybe I got the obvious choice.
I'm Glück ab mit Ihnen hier. And welcome to RB Global Tracks Leipzig's fresh RB Leipzig podcast in English, brought to you by Richard and Mario. Amongst us, we are season ticket holders, passionate supporters, and not very neutral local pundits. Both of us have been following Leipzig football since our childhood days. So if you want to hear about RB Leipzig, capture the mood of the fans in the city, and if you want to go beyond numbers and statistics, you are in the right place. We're delighted to welcome you on board. Let's go. Auf geht's, Leipziger Jungs. Hello and good evening, Richard. How are you tonight?
Good evening, Mario. Thank you. Oh gosh, I love your smoky voice. It sounds so beautiful when you're so like a little bit sick. Yeah, I've heard you changed your cigarette brand. You made it sweet. You have to get used to it. So I wish you all the best. That you get over it, over this huge change recently, and that you will find your normal voice back as soon as possible.
I think my wife told me I got men flu. So there you go. Männergrippe. Yeah. It's really dangerous, isn't it? It's really dangerous.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Anyways, very nice to hear you again and to actually see you. So, Richard, what are we going to talk about today?
Okay, we're going to take a brief look back to our season-ending finale at Eintracht Frankfurt. And of course, we want to talk about a little bit our impressions in general of the season. And we're going to share some awards. We have prepared some awards, which we would like to mention in this little show. And we didn't inform each other before the show. So I am curious and excited. What are your winners in all of our categories?
Well, Richard, I think I really liked the idea when you told me about to look at last season and put them into some categories, which includes like the game of the season or the biggest surprise or the biggest disgrace. And yes, we have not exchanged our views beforehand. It'll be live. It'll be raw. It'll be authentic, our reaction. We may have shared the same opinion. We may not. The only way to find out is to continue to listen. Anyways, let's look at our last match versus Eintracht Frankfurt, which in the sense of the sporting performance or the question of could we move up or down the table did not have any impact, as we said before. But I remember from our last episode, we predicted that we would lose, but we didn't. We drew. And that's a tradition in itself. And we were actually up 2-0. And that's a tradition in itself. And then we kind of bottled it. And Eintracht Frankfurt got the win they needed in order to be sure to qualify for the Europa League. And guys, they can actually qualify for the Champions League if Borussia Dortmund managed to beat Real Madrid. But that's a different story. So you actually said, Richard, that in order, or the team Marco Rose put on the pitch was actually the best team there is at the moment. That was kind of surprising. And the performance showed that it was the right way to go because we were leading 2-0 and Šeško, I think he scored his 14th goal. Just remember, Kungu had 16 last year and that was top of the league with Lücke Füllkrug. So a solid performance in that sense. And of course, Eintracht came back and it was 2-2. But to be honest, that didn't hurt that much. The thing that kind of caught my eye was the display that the Leipzig supporters did before the match or when the game started. In Germany, we called choreography. And with those banners and that display, they remarked and honored the fact that RB Leipzig is just 15 years old. And that is something which I still find quite surprising. with all the story and the ups and downs and the presence, especially internationally, that this club is so young. And I think that was very done in a very nice, respectful way, showing that it all started with buying a license of SSV Markranstädt and then starting in Tier 5 and moving all the way up to the top level Bundesliga and now regularly appearing in the Champions League. And we can argue about the fact that we've been in the semifinals a long time ago and ever since we always crashed out before. But who would have thought when it all started, Richard? I think when you kind of started following RB Leipzig 2009, would you have thought that 15 years later, this club would be well established in the top 4 of German top flight football and also a common name in the a very well known and respected name in the Champions League?
No, to be fair, no, I never expected that. Of course, not in this speed, not in this velocity that all those things happen. You know, you mentioned it. 2009, the club was founded, and then we started playing in the 5th year. And I thought, okay, this is a international company that runs the club now, and I thought, okay, if the right people are getting on the right, toggles and in the back office, then I was like, okay, maybe it's manageable within 10 years to get into the Bundesliga. And I was quite surprised that that happened way earlier than I initially thought. And even more, I was surprised that in the inaugural season we managed to finish the second place and get into the Champions League. Yeah, quite surprisingly to my. And if you start thinking back to those days that we played our very first Champions League match in 2017 versus AS Monaco, that was like 8 years and a few months after the club was founded. And it's amazing, and it's still, if you think about those numbers, this brief glimpse, short period of time, yeah, it's like almost unimaginable that this all happened.
I agree. It's gone really, really fast. And even when I arrived in 2013 and I saw that first match versus Lotte, I could have never expected that these things would happen so quickly. But here we are. So playing Frankfurt in the last match, and we didn't need to fear that we would drop out the Champions League qualifications. That was really good. 2-2 draw at the end of the day. I think we can all live with that. But I did notice as well that our supporters behave differently away. They are probably a bit louder and they like to show some color and light and put up some flair. So a lot of torches went up and giving the stadium red smoke. And no, the stadium in Frankfurt is built that way that the smoke travels a certain way. And of course, it carries the name of a German bank, by the way, because it is in Frankfurt and that's the financial capital of Europe, one of them at least. Paris is going to argue with that. Anyways, so the smoke was traveling around, and in the middle of the stadium, there is a nice big video cube, but that caught the smoke proceeded towards that video cube, and the fire alarm actually went off. So the video cube shut down, descended, and the whole match had to stop. And I heard that nobody else managed to do that before. So those 15 or 2,000 fans of RB Leipzig, this is just a number, I guess. I don't know how many people were actually there, but the block looked full. So all those away fans, which actually never exist in the other stadiums, if you listen to those traditional fans, they managed to set off a fire alarm and interrupt the game for 6 minutes, which I thought was extraordinary. And I know you and I were at different ends of this discussions. I'm not necessarily in favor of flares and Pyrotechnik, as we say in German, but maybe that's a different topic for another time. But it was something different, something we never experienced before, and something those Frankfurt supporters never experienced either. So these were the only things that really happened. I think that's enough said about the Frankfurt match. Do you agree?
Yeah, let's move on.
If we start looking at this season, which just ended, What is your general feeling about the season?
Well, I'm surprised how good Coach Rose managed the whole transmission.
Mhm.
Losing your key players 4 times, Soboslai, Nkunku, Lima gone, and so that in those key positions we had to find proper replacements, and I wasn't not quite sure if we did this very well during the off season. And then I was quite surprised how good we started. Okay, so we lost. So okay, no, we won the very first game, this 3-0, this Danny Olmo hat trick in the Super Cup, and I was like, okay, man, it's a Super Cup. It's not that important in Germany and a lot like in maybe other countries, and but on the other hand side, Bayern Munich won't lose voluntarily, especially not in their home stadium. So, yeah, that meant something. So then we lost the very first match with Leverkusen. I was like, okay, that's not that bad. Leverkusen is very strong this season. Okay, we can lose in there. No problem. And then we started winning games. And we talked about that. And I said, okay, yeah, the results are great, but the way we are playing is not. So we overperforming. I remember quite well that we talked about those facts. And then we started having some bad games. Then we had this Wien Wiesbaden game. We had the Wolfsburg matches. They were awful. And then yeah, like, was kind of a roller coaster. So during the late autumn and the start of December. And then it moved on like that in the beginning of the Rückrunde. And yeah, we lost 3 in a row. Very uncommon. And then rumors started. Okay, is Coach Rose still the right guy? Is this squad good enough? Maybe we had to move on from some players. Maybe it was a huge mistake letting Emil go, and so on and so on. But the whole stuff and the whole back office kept calm and focused on their job and managed to find a way out of this hole, and back to winning ways. And that's what impressed me really, 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 really in a really strong way. So did not, to be honest, I didn't expect that Coach Rose would be able to do this turnaround the way he did. And especially after he re-established Peter Gulaschi when he came back from this huge injury, um, for Janis Blažević, who did it very well until that point where he was nominated for the first time for the national team. And then all of a sudden after that, his performances started to descending. I don't know why, but you can look it up in numbers. It's not just a feeling that I got. And so, long story short, we had a roller coaster ride, and I'm more convinced than ever that we have a great manager, and we have to move everything that's possible to keep him on the sideline and give him the power, give him the control about the squad. Let him set the tone for what players we're needing, what playing style he wants to play with this squad, and then we will have a bright future.
It's very interesting because roller coaster ride is something I'm thinking of as well. And it was definitely a roller coaster ride, but it's amazing how our train ended up in the top 4 position to secure Champions League. This was the final destination that we were supposed to go anywhere, and it happened was like 2-3 match days before the end of the season. So quite not quite the final that we usually have and the tense moments. So in that sense, it's really really good. I'm going back to the last home match versus Bremen when we had a 2-2 draw, and those although the players came into sector D into our section and they just stood in front of us, the feeling was kind of somber. It wasn't a time to celebrate, and it was maybe because the way the match went, and more frighteningly or concerning, maybe it's normal for us to finish in the top four and for Champions League. And it shouldn't be normal, but at that moment it felt like that. So, although there was a roller coaster ride, I think in our hearts, we never ever had concerns about the fact that we would not qualify for the Champions League. So, this is how spoiled we are. What I noticed as well is, well, the only bigger disappointment I've got from this season is that we're not going to Berlin. I missed this annual trip. Plus, we know where to find good parking spaces around the Olympiastadion. Damn it.
Yeah. And the cup final took place most recently last Saturday, and I watched this, of course, not the whole 90 minutes because I had to watch the second semifinal from the IIHF Worlds first. But as soon as I switched the TV channel and then attended and watched the game, and man, it was boring. Okay,
Yeah.
it's like football is always boring if you move on from hockey,
Or
and
from handball, even.
or from handball. Yeah, you have to get used to. Okay, man, this whole sports is much
Can I
more
give you a tip?
slow.
I'm going to give you a tip.
Yeah.
So, in order to avoid that, watch some baseball first.
Okay, if I'm not finding to sleep, I will consider this. Thank you.
Or maybe golf.
Well, golf was quite entertaining to me, to be honest. But that's a different story. And yet, yeah, the cup final was so boring, and I thought, man, if we were there now, it would
Yeah.
have much more entertaining, no doubt about it.
Of course, because it's our team. But coming back to the point, so we secured Champions League and it felt kind of normal. And this is even more surprising if I go back to one of the points you made, because we lost quite a lot of quality with Kunku, Laimer, Schopo, Halster, Guardiol. We forgot about the Gladiator. Now he plays at City and it feels like he's been there for 5-6 years already. And don't forget, in the winter, Forsberg left us, Timo Werner left us as well, and Carvalho. So quite a lot of people left, especially in the attacking field. But what a big takeaway from this year is as well, oh my God, we have two strikers who keep scoring all the time, at least. Okay, Goalpender and Šeško, they keep on scoring. And remember when we got new strikers like Sørloth, who's really good now in La Liga, or
Top
Silva.
scorer.
I know.
Incredible.
Or just recently, there was a guy in the Europa League final. Yeah, Lucky Luke, man, who scored 3 goals. Anyway, and that had never worked. So now we got 2 strikers on board who keep on scoring. So this is actually very promising. And also, okay, Xavi, outstanding. I mean, there's nothing else we can say about him. Olmo, I wished he wouldn't just miss 11, 12 matches each year. And this year he's going on to play in the European Championship, and bloody hell, he might be playing the Olympics as well. But maybe he's not our problem anymore after that. But I would have loved to see him in one of those seasons to play almost all of the games and see what he's really capable of. But anyways, with all these quality players we lost and all the new players who came on board, they integrated really, really, really quickly. And we had some highlight match, especially on the international stage and the Champions League. Yes, we lost at City, but for one half we were up 2-0 in a very convincing manner. And we held Real Madrid to a draw in Madrid. So that is something where we actually entered a new level. But going forward, and the same as you mentioned, it's important to keep Marco Rose on board. And Marco Rose has asked the question, so where does this club want to go? And it goes back to one of the episodes that we put out, where we said, whatever happened to hungry for more? Are we hungry for more? So this is going to be very interesting to see. But I take my hats off to Marco Rose and the staff, how they actually merged this team together. And at one point versus Borussia Dortmund, everything was falling into place, wasn't it? It was a well-oiled machine. It was beautiful to watch. Yes, it fell apart the week after, but it just showed us again what could have been and lays the foundation for future success, hopefully. But we'll wait and see. But after all, it seems normal, but it was not a normal season in my eyes. Luckily, we have a good foundation to continue. So, Richard, let's move on to our categories. I'm quite excited about that. And I'm really curious to what our opinions are going to be. I got down the first category game of the season. Is this something you like to be looking at? Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Let's exchange it after every category. So let me start this game of the season, and then your next one to show your comeback player of the season, and
Okay.
then I move on with player of the season and so on. All right. So personally, I thought about it a long time. So what was my game of the season? Because you mentioned it, there were lots of special games. You mentioned this unlucky loss at Man City. There's 1-1 draw at Real Madrid. This unnecessary loss at home versus Real Madrid. Of course, the already mentioned 3-0 away win in Super Cup at Bayern Munich. But my personally, my most favorite game of the season is, hold on, the 3-2 away win back in December at Borussia Dortmund.
Ah,
Yeah, because
okay.
that was a battle. It was a lousy weather. It was windy. It was rainy, and there was this curious scene where we where Dortmund quite well moved the ball through midfield. Then they was a misdirected pass. Schlager played this nice pass to in the direction of Openda. He started with a sprint towards Kobel, and Hummels fouled him
Mm.
in the penalty box, and he got booked with the yellow card, and we received the penalty shot. And then it took a few minutes from the VAR, and all of a sudden things changed. There was the spot of the foul was placed just right before the penalty box, so we had no penalty. But on the other hand side, Mats Hummels had to go after like 50 minutes or whatever it was. And then we started throwing everything at that goal, and Dortmund had nothing to answer with that, ran short, and so we went up in front from an own goal from Benzemaini. It's just funny, when if you got chances after chances, and then need another man to score for your squad. And I was like, okay, I didn't watch it on TV when it was live, but I heard it on the radio, and I was like, okay, now the knot was opened, as we say in German, der Knoten ist geplatzt. And the Marco, not Marco, Terzic, the Dortmund coach, had to change after this suspension of Mats Hummels. So he took off. I don't know who he took off, but I know who came in, and it was Niklas Süle, who came back from an illness just 2 days earlier. And I was like, okay, now how can he bring him from the bench? This is impossible that he is gonna have enough stamina to go on for the another 75 minutes that had to play to this point. And then, of all players, it was, of course, Süle in an extraordinary way. Striker like, the striker's best, how he put that one into the back of the net from this nice crosser from, I think it came from Brandt. And he was at the second goal post and, yeah, managed it really, really well. And I was like, okay, this is not possible. You're extremely hot for the first 45 minutes, throwing everything you've got, and then get some kind of lacking in your concentration just before halftime, and then Dortmund came back. But the second half started just as the first 45 minutes started. So we came out and was like, okay, so we are one man ahead, we one more, we have to show our strengths, and our squad showed, and we had chances over chances. And that the Baumgartner scored a nice goal, but the one of the nicest goals, not the nicest goal, I have another for the award to come, but this Yusuf Pausen goal, beautiful. I can watch it all day long. How he just did a little hip shake, and my very best friend Nico Schlotterbeck just took it completely wrong, and then his shooting lane was open, and then, but the in Germany would like say Schlusspointe, so this the final laughter was not on our side, because it was even Dortmund again who scored in the at a time. I think it was a Lykke Füllkrug who scored with a header after a corner kick. And I was like, come on, are you serious? Playing like over 60 minutes, one man more on that pitch. And then, the Bumblebees still not giving up. And when that final whistle came, that win, that victory tasted so sweet. Victories at Dortmund always taste sweeter like away wins in other stadiums. And this game and how it went even more. And this is because this is my game of the season.
That is interesting. I didn't really think about that game, but the way you described it, I can really follow your train of thought. I picked a different one. I'm actually going back to match week 2, our first home game, when we played VfB Stuttgart. At a time when VfB Stuttgart came to us from a 5-0 win over VfL Bochum. But to be honest, at this time, I did not suspect VfB Stuttgart to be that strong. And I remember being in the stadium and watching the first half, and I thought, okay, let's give our team a little bit of credit. It's a new team. We lost a lot of players. But you could already see that Stuttgart knew how to play us in the first half. It was easy for them to progress through our midfield and create some chances. But the only goal they scored, it was, of course, Guirassy. Who else? At the time, I didn't know, but of course, he would go on to score a lot more. And it was because of a pass from David Raum, who passed it to one of the Stuttgart players, and they really ensured that the game was really quick, and Guirassy got the ball and scored. Blažič actually, I think, almost got a touch on the ball as well. But after the first half, I didn't really feel depressed. I was still hopeful for the second half because our team progressed quite well. And I'm not sure if one goal was disallowed in the first half, but the second half, our team came out and it was the likes of Xavi, it was the likes of Olmo, it was the likes of Gopenda, who really were starting to rattling Stuttgart's cages, creating a lot of chances. Benny Henrichs was very strong in that game as well. And of course, there was no penalty given as well. Guirassy, I think he fell onto David Raum, but he argued that he was pushed beforehand by Paulsen, and the VAR took a couple of minutes to look at it and to really look for that foul. I think that was in the first half, because Marco Rose came out storming, got a yellow card. One of how many this season, but it was typical this way. But in the second half, they came out fighting, and the key scene was the equalizer. Leipzig was pressing quite high. Nübel got the ball back from one of his defenders in his own box, tried to clear it, and who stuck his foot out? Benny Henrichs, and the ball went into the neck. I remember the roar going through the stadium in disbelief, but also in told you so. Now it's gonna happen. Now we're really gonna beat you. And the ferocious force that was unleashed afterwards, resulting in 4 more goals. And I think one was disallowed as well. And it didn't matter because we were just used to it. Was so incredible. And that half was so entertaining that this one really made the match of the season for me. And it gave me so much confidence that we're going to have a good season. Not really knowing where it's going to go, but definitely knowing that we have, with all these changes and all these new players, and after a couple of matches that they're playing together like this and really sticking together as a team, that we were on course for a good season, and we should definitely qualify for Champions League. And that is probably the most we could expect for the season. So for that reason, that's my match of the season.
Nice choice. And I get your point, because I think it was really, really important to get away with the win, to gain some confidence.
Yeah.
Because I looked up how many X goals we had in that game. It's incredible. It was 1.8, and it was 1.8 X goals. I mean, everything went well. Every chance we had, we converted. Basically, and it could have been easily a draw or loss, and then you just might starting asking questions, asking yourself, is this squad good enough? The players could have been asking themselves, are we good enough? Are my teammates good enough? Xavi might started thinking, was that the right decision coming to Leipzig? And with this convincing win, nothing of this happened. And it was, I think, a very, very important first home win, especially in that manner.
Yeah, I really like to think back at that game. It was really incredible. Anyway, what's the next category? Because I got a different order to you.
Okay, so I would like to move on with the comeback player of the season. So
Shall I start?
Yeah, please.
I mean, the obvious choice is the obvious choice, but I went for a different guy.
Okay, so maybe I got the obvious choice.
I went for number 4, Willi Orban, because I thought, when I look back at the season, I thought, oh yeah, Willi Orban, he was out for quite a long time. And it's something you don't remember straight away. And I looked it up, and that reminded me that in match week 3, he was out. He got his injury. And he actually suffered a lateral ligament rupture. Not sure if I pronounce this correctly, nor am I able to give any diagnosis from here or predict how long this usually takes. I'm not a doctor. He was out until match week 19. He came back on for 5 minutes when we played VfB Stuttgart in that match where we lost 5-2. And it was from there on until the end of the season. He always started, he was always in the starting 11, which I thought was quite incredible. And ever since he got back on the pitch, it was the case that RB Leipzig never conceded more than 2 goals. They only conceded 2 goals in 3 matches. But otherwise, it was either a clean sheet or just 1 goal. And of course, it coincided with the return of Peter Gulaschi. But he did give our defense that stability they needed. He is so important to the team. I never thought, when he joined us in the Zweite Bundesliga, when he came from Kaiserslautern, I never expected him to stay that long. I never expected him to wanting to stay that long. But he's such an important part of the team and the defense, and I hope that this continues. He just continues the way he performs. So for me, comeback player of the year is Willi Orban.
Nice choice. Nice choice. So we teasered it, I think, a little bit because, to me, this is no question. It's a no-brainer because my comeback player of the year is Peter Gulaschi. Pete the Wall back again, and I couldn't have been more glad that this happened. I was quite, I was a Giannis believer. So we talked about it in October and November, and when I said, "Hey, come on, this guy is gonna go for the Euros for Germany," hear my words, and not shortly after that, I made that statement. He was in fact nominated by Coach Nagelsmann for the national squad, although he didn't play, of course not. But when he came back from the national team, his performances started descending. I mentioned it in the beginning of our show today. And so then Pete came back from his injury and he had his very first game. I think it was the cup match versus Wiesbaden.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. So yeah, Pete, thank you. Maybe it's time to move on. Maybe you are not able to regain your top level you showed us recently. And then he proved me wrong. Oh boy, he proved me wrong. And after that game, the last game Janis played for us was the 2-5 defeat at Stuttgart. And after that, Coach Rose made an announcement and told everyone, okay, Pete is gonna come back, and Pete is our new number 1 for the rest of the season. Bam. Love it, or just leave me alone. It's my opinion, my decision. I'm the coach here. And from that point, Pete came back, and he had from that 9 Bundesliga games. No, excuse me, it was 13 Bundesliga games. We didn't lose one since he turned back. There was, I think, we won like where are my numbers? Where my cheat sheet? Yeah, nine wins and 4 draws, and he had a save percentage of 78%. My gosh, this is top shelf Bundesliga level.
Yeah.
And I think he never reached. Okay, it wasn't a whole season, to be fair, but a third of a season, and this gives you a slight idea what it could have been if he was able to be on the top level from the very start of the season. So 0.69 goal against per 90 minutes, 78% save percentage, and 5 clean sheets, and one penalty kick attempt that not went in. And we talked about afterwards this Freiburg game when I told you that he is everything, but he's not a penalty killer. But even that was in his favor. So he fought. I'm sure he fought so hard to come back after his torn ACL, and yeah, he did so. And I'm really glad for the club. I'm happy for him, and that's why Peter Gulaschi is my comeback player of the year.
And it is, like you said, it is the obvious choice. What really impressed me was one of the statements he gave in the interview, how professionally, and that showed how professionally he handled the whole situation. I'm not sure if it was after the the Wiesbaden game or the St. Gallen game when he played in the Champions League. But he basically said he is at the moment he's not the starting goalie, but he's very professional. And from his own experience, he at the time he knew how quickly this situation can change. And he assured the club and everyone that he would be ready if the club needed him. And boy, did he take his chance? Did he grab his chance and really? You could tell in the beginning that he needed a bit more experience, but he was well back into the game very, very quickly. And to the point, and I'm sorry to say, that all of a sudden I didn't miss Giannis anymore. And that I kind of feel sorry for the guy because he carried us through a lot, especially last year in the Cup win and also the Super Cup win. But as I understand, he will move on to a club where he can be number one on a regular basis. So we'll watch that over the summer. But yeah, well done. Very well done, Peter Gulaschi. It's going to be interesting what's going to happen next season. But he's a hell of a player, I must admit. What is your next category?
On my phone, on my
We're so organized.
notebook, on my phone, the next category is Player of the Season.
Then you go first, please.
Okay, I'll go first. My Player of the Season, no surprise, number 20, Xavi. It's like this guy is just incredible. He's 20 years old, first time at the top tier European league, and I was skeptical to be honest. Okay, he did very well, nice performances in his season with PSV in the Eredivisie in the Netherlands, and then he joined us, and I was like, okay, now this is a guy who's 20 years old. Wow. And this is the one that should the player with all those pressure on his shoulders, and this is the guy we have to rely on. Come on. And from day one, he showed why our staff choose him, and why he is such an outstanding, talented player in European football, in world football. And if we didn't have him on our roster this season, things would have been way more complicated. And I have no idea which other player could have done what he did, and he had no weaknesses. He performed week after week after week, and it seemed like all the pressure is his. It's not like that is affecting him in some way, at least in our club. So he had some issues and struggled a bit with the national team of Netherlands because he was heavily criticized by Coach Koeman after one poor performance in the European qualifiers, or it wasn't friendly. I don't remember this exactly. But when we came back to his lads in Leipzig, he just followed where he stopped before there was international break. And so thank you, young man, Xavi. I hope you're staying one more year.
At least, but one more year would be great. And I must agree with you. Xavi is the one who made the huge difference. And there was a key scene in our home match versus VfB Stuttgart where he scored, I think, the 5th goal. And that showed what we could expect from him the whole season. He was practically down. He practically lost the ball, but he managed to recover the ball on the ground and score. And there were so many scenes this season where They tried to stop him with 2-3 players and in unfair ways, but you just couldn't stop him. He would just run. But I like to give credit to 2 more players, let's say maybe slightly behind it, and that's the 2 scorers, Sheshko and Gopenda. Because for the first time in a long time, we actually added strikers to the squad who kept scoring and kept converting. And in the case of Gopenda, well done on staying and 4 yellows, not getting the 5th yellow. I'm really impressed. So, yes, it's Xavi, but right behind it, I would like to mention our 2 scorers. And I hope that duo will stay together because they can provide us a lot of joy and fun. And especially in the case of Sheshko, in the second part of the season, gosh, has he performed well. Unbelievable. And I never thought that I wouldn't be talking about Timo Werner anymore. And, Yusuf Pausen. It's for a long time he performed really, really well. But now it's getting a bit more difficult, but we will see.
Yeah, but I
Nice
think
category.
he's tall enough. He's tall enough to fit into the costume, this mascot costume. You know, he can
Bobek.
perform bully.
Oh, Bob and Bobek.
Or maybe this. So the next category,
Yeah.
best goal of the season. So what was your best goal of the season?
It's really interesting because I immediately thought of Sheshko's disallowed goal versus Real Madrid at home, which I only know because he showed me that via a little video clip and I wasn't even there. But I decided to go for a goal in our first home match again versus VfB Stuttgart and Benny Henrichs, who stuck his foot out, hit the ball. Nübel tried to clear the ball from his box. He just stuck his foot out and put it in the back of the net. And why is this important? Well, first of all, it really was the beginning of that force to be unleashed and that we could expect in that second half. And I also liked his statement and his comments after the game. Because when David Raum did this pass in the first half, which was leading to the first goal for VfB Stuttgart, in the first half, Benny Henrichs actually walked over to him and said, "Don't worry, we're going to win this game. We're on this together." So when he scored the equalizer, David Raum ran across the pitch and just thanked him for it. And that was the start of a wonderful half. It just showed how the team had actually gelled already at that time. So that's why for me, that goal has a huge significance. And for me, that's the goal of the season. What's yours, Richard?
Nice choice. It's interesting because that one was on my short list too.
Whoa!
Yeah, and it was that close that I would have chosen this one either. But I decided to go for another one. And to me, you know, we scored a lot of goals and a lot of beautiful goals too. And it's not that easy to saying, okay, this is the very best and nicest goal of the season. But I decided that the 1-0 go-ahead goal versus Borussia Mönchengladbach from Xavi, of course, is my very favorite goal of the season because it's technically so hard to perform this. You know, there was this crosser or this pass from Olmo through midfield to Yusuf Pausen, and Pausen passed it back alongside the penalty box to Xavi. And you know, Yusuf is not the most talented player on this earth, and so this pass not came as smooth as you could have expected it from this position. So it did a little flying mode. It came in the height of his hip, of Xavi's hip, and he took it with his right knee, and in one smooth movement, in one moving, he moved his body so smooth, and it was like the ball touched his knee, and about 0.23 seconds later, his foot hit the ball, and he just sanded beyond the keeper. I don't know who was in goal for Gladbach in that game, but he sanded beyond and just a few centimeters beneath the goalpost into the back of the net. And this is definitely one in a highlight reel in a season of a lot of highlights. But to me, because it was so hard to perform this one, and he made it look so easy. This is my goal of the season.
Very good choice. Yeah, now I remember it. Didn't think of it, to be honest, but the way you explained it makes perfect sense to me.
Okay, so next category is the biggest disappointment. Biggest disappointment. Okay, I start. Excuse me. So my biggest disappointment of the season is Nikolaus Seiwald.
Oh,
Yeah.
I could have expected that. But to explain why.
I don't write him off. So he's a young guy, and maybe he needs some time to develop. He joined us from Salzburg, and he came to us with I think it was the fee of 20 million. So, and he had 6 starts, barely 700 and something minutes of playing time. He had some very, very poor performances, especially versus Wiesbaden. My gosh, I thought he was playing his very first football game. And to be honest, he had some poor performances as well with the national team. So to me, if you're joining our club and you're coming with this transfer fee of 20 million euros, I expect just more. And it's not like that I cannot put this in with some numbers to emphasize my point here. Do yourself a favor and go check the numbers of progressive passes per 90 minutes. And Xaver Schlager, who was unfortunately injured and out now for until October or November or maybe longer. And he's our leader as a defense midfielder with 8.36 progressive passes in 90 minutes. So, and after him, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 other players. And then there's Nikolaus Seiwald. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. And
okay.
now imagine that usually the guys that should perform progressive passes or midfielders or defensive backs. So, and ahead of him is even Fabio Carvalho in that department. So, okay, he only played 9 games, to be fair, but even Emil Forsberg, Lukiba, Benny Henrichs, Raum, Haidara, Kampel, Klostermann, of course, all of those are performing better in this department, in this category. And it's just one number, and you could figure out some more numbers where it just performed very poor. And I do hope really, really, really for him and for the team, for the squad, for the staff, that he is able to make the next step. Maybe the Euros is the nice stage for him, and maybe this gives some performance boost, some confidence boost. I don't know, but yeah, this is the guy. I have high expectations, and I'm really sure the first half of the next season, of the upcoming season, is his prove it stage. Prove it, I'll be gone during winter.
You could be right, but good choice in the sense of who is the biggest disappointment. It wasn't on my list, but now that you mention it, yeah, especially the Wiesbaden match, that was dreadful. It's his first season here, but he was quite expensive. I agree. Let's see. Let's keep our fingers crossed. They must have gotten him for some reason, so hopefully it'll work out. My biggest disappointment was the fact that Emil Forsberg was leaving us in winter. Why the heck did he have to leave us in the winter? Just because of the Major League Soccer in America, because it starts in springtime? So who cares? Well, they do, and Emil does. But I thought it was very disappointing, and I still think, although we don't know how he would have performed, and if he performed that tad a little bit better in the Hinrunde, because he knew that he was leaving us. So although we didn't know how he would have performed in the Rückrunde, I still think he could have helped us, and especially in some of the matches when things didn't go right. So yeah, my biggest disappointment of this season was Emil Forsberg jetting off to the Big Apple, but in the wintertime. He could have done that in the summer, But then, of course, Major League Soccer would have been on the way for quite a while already. Still wish him best of luck, and I think he's doing quite well. But yeah, that was disappointing. Thank you. Next category,
Okay,
Richard.
we have 3 categories left. Next one is, excuse me, the biggest surprise. What was your biggest surprise of the season?
Actually, I got 2 matches where the team performed really well, and I mentioned it before. And I was on in the Champions League, the away game to Manchester City, especially in the first half when they were up 2-0. Yes, we lost 3-2, but in that match, I got the feeling we're actually quite close to one of the biggest clubs in Europe. And with that squad, which hadn't even played together for that long, that is a very good sign. And the second game I like to mention that part as well is the draw at Madrid. We held them to a draw. Yes, we needed a win, and it was close, but they held their heads up high at Bernabeu. They played really well versus, the team which might be winning the Champions League. And I thought, there are times now when RB Leipzig is actually close to beating one of the greats in Europe. So that gives me a lot of hope for the future. And as long as we stay hungry. So that's a big surprise that we saw this with that team this year already. So what is your biggest surprise, Richard?
My biggest surprise is Lois Openda.
Why is that? I mean, he was 43 million.
Yeah,
Very expensive.
Yeah, now when this name came up, and he's okay, there's this talented player, and RB Leipzig is on him and wants to make a permanent deal, and it was in those back in those days, it felt like that the demand of Racing Club Lens went up like daily. So it was like 32 million, it was 35 million, and suddenly it was 40 million. And I was like, okay, is this guy real that worthy? Is this guy worth 40 of plus million, who had one good season in the Eredivisie at Vitesse Arnhem, who played one good season at RC Lens in Ligue 1, scoring 21 goals and adding 4 assists in 38 games. And I thought, hey, this guy won 175. Okay, he's not good enough for headers. He's a little bit undersized, only 73 kilos. Okay, maybe he's technically talented and maybe he's fast, but okay, we had a lot of those players who was fast and talented, and I was like, okay, it's a huge risk. It's a risky move. It's a risky move getting like 40 plus millions for a player who is like a bet, like a bet for a future development.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever scouted that guy, I tip my hat to that. Wow.
Brilliant move.
Wow. Beyond my expectations by far. I did not expect scoring 24 goals in the league, plus something like, I don't know how often he scored in the cup and how much goals he scored in the UCL. I didn't expect that. I expect something if you're paying like that much money for a player, but 24 goals in Bundesliga is outstanding. Biggest surprise, my opinion, Lois Openda.
Very nice choice. Yeah, I must agree. That's a really good one.
The last
What's
spot.
left?
Sorry. Yeah, two left. Two left, and the last but one is the biggest disgrace. The biggest disgrace of the whole season.
What a shambles.
Yeah. And I start.
You start. I'm curious.
And of course, the biggest disgrace does not really is about a RBL player, because we all love those lads, even Mr. Seibert, excuse me. But the biggest
got the same one.
It's the biggest disgrace, and it's not even close, is that Cavaral was not sent off for this rude tackling, for this daylight robbery foul that was not given, not rewarded by the refs for his foul at Xavi in our home game versus Real Madrid. He came with his leg with like 10 meters sprint, no chance to the ball. He hit his leg where he was standing on, and it's still today quite a surprise how Xavi not get injured in that scene. So if you're attacking a player like that, it wouldn't surprise me if he broke his ankle or something like that, and nothing happened. Luckily. So, but what is the VAR for if not
Exactly.
overturning those not made decisions that should have been made? So the biggest disgrace, that awkward foul from Mr. Cabral, and I won't ever forgive that.
Well, I guess we were on the same team here because I think the biggest disgrace is a brilliant footballer, but he's just an arrogant, unfair sportsman that we have come across, and that's Vinicius Jr. It was especially when he pushed over Willy Orban and didn't get any. Did he get a booking for it? I don't know. Or he should have gotten a red card for it.
Yeah, he got a yellow.
And of course, he scored the first go for Real Madrid, which was the difference they needed to scrape through. And he continued to be a very not very arrogant player when they played Bayern Munich in the second leg. I think they were leading. Kimmich wanted to give him the hand over the ball. As much as I maybe not like Kimmich in games either, but he wanted to hand him the ball for him to enable to do the corner kick. And I don't know, Vinny was so weak that he couldn't hold on to the ball. It dropped off him, like Teflon.
It's important to save your energy for when it's really things come on the line. It's okay.
And I think he's such a brilliant football player, but I'm not allowed to say what I think. But he's very arrogant and unsportsmanlike. For me, this season that we've come across as the biggest disgrace, Vinicius Jr. Thank you. One more, isn't it? One more category.
Last category, almost 60 minutes in. The most memorable moment of the season. So Mario, please share us.
Oh gosh, I gotta look through my notes. What is the most memorable season?
I think there's only one obvious choice, and it's not even close. But I'm curious.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's Emil Forsberg's grand farewell.
Of course.
Because
he
came on the pitch. He helped to turn the game around. It was like a Hollywood script. Bloody hell. Unbelievable. It was the 66th minute. He came on so calmly and actually scored the second goal, 2-1. And it was just like somebody written down the script. He provided the assist to the third goal, and it should have been his goal. But there was a bloody good goalie on the opposition. So Schumacher scored. And he would have had a fourth, but he was offside. Well, Šeško was offside. And it was just unbelievable to see him, how he helped to turn this thing around. We all knew it would be his last match at home. That was kind of sad enough anyway. It was a very emotional day and a very, very emotional match, the way it panned out. And I loved it that the Swedish Viking actually cried like a baby. So although his speech was a bit scripted, because he repeated that speech as well on YouTube, so very corporate-like. He's done that very well. But I think there was a lot of truth in it. It came from the heart as well. So I believe that. And yeah, that was the biggest moment, most memorable moment for me of the season. Yeah. And of course, you speaking Swedish, which you
a little bit
in Prague, or was it Ostrava? You've proven that again, that actually Swedish people understand you.
I think it was actually in both cities. But you were not around the first time in Ostrava when I found that Swedish guy and I talked a few sentences.
Did he look as astonished as the Johan guy? What's going on here? Anyway, what's your most memorable moment?
It's obvious. It's obvious. It's not even close. It's Emil's farewell, and you mentioned everything. What was important on that day. And I do remember, because I attended that game with my whole family, and when Emil was on his lap of honor to clap in the stands, even my little daughter had some tears in her eyes, because it was she knew that, okay, this is the very last time, and this long-time RBL player who was as long as the club, as old as she is, and
my God,
yeah. and so for her whole life, he was part of that team, and I think she knew what's that for kind of long time and how special this moment is, and that touched my heart even more. And so, yeah, of course, most memorable moment for a long time, and there won't be anything comparable to that in the next season, not in the upcoming seasons. Maybe until that day Yusuf get his farewell,
Exactly.
but I don't want to think about that now. So yeah, Amy's farewell, of course, the most memorable moment of the season.
Oh, so actually, we chose the same moment. Excellent. So, Richard, this concludes the our season review by just looking at some categories, choosing some favorite players, some special moments. Hope you guys all enjoyed it. Let us know what you think. Drop down your comments, maybe in the description below, or send us an email at talktous@rbleglobaltracks.com. Now, the season is over, Richard, and that usually means we're taking a longer break, but we're actually pushing out some special episodes, I hear. Now, you are a smooth bastard because you got tickets for the Euros, and anybody who doesn't know, you will know now that Leipzig's actually one of the host cities, so there'll be a couple of matches. And Mr. Richard will be in our stadium to watch, I don't know which matches, but the content that you collect from there. Sorry?
I can tell you if you want to.
Oh, well, do enlighten us, please.
Okay, yeah. If you ask me that kindly, I will unveil my which game I'm going to see. Okay, I'm gonna watch the opener in Group. What's Group G or H? Anyway, it's the match Czech Republic versus Portugal. So I'm going to see.
You're going to see Patrick Schick?
CR7. Patrick Schick, okay. And CR7 at.
Oh, I forgot about Leipzig this guy. Stadium. Yeah. Okay. Brilliant.
So, and I'm trying to get some voices from the stands. Maybe I got someone who wants to chat with me, exchange some words on Czech or Portuguese. And don't speak anyone of this, but hopefully our guests to speak a little bit better English than I do, and then we can go for a little conversation. And I would like to present something in our little podcast here, and of course, what's like the whole mood in the city. There will be a huge stage at one of the biggest squares in the city where every day another band is going to perform. Of course, all of our pubs and restaurants will be filled with foreigners of those nations that's going to compete in our nice city. And I do remember well how the mood was in the city during the World Cup 2006, and I'm really, really looking forward to to have this again. And this time we're gonna record something and provide something in our little podcast to maybe transport this into the whole wide world.
It's going to be really interesting because I remember in 2006, the Netherlands actually played in Leipzig as well. And they'll be back this time. And I wasn't here in 2006, but I heard a lot of people were still talking about it in a very fun way because the Dutch, they just occupy your city, but in a very nice way because they party. They're not aggressive. They just party, even in Germany. So I think you're really looking forward to that, aren't you?
Of course. And, it's the 18th of June. And my brother-in-law is going to join me. I think he will arrive here during, 8 or 2 o'clock afternoon. And from that time on, I will take the rest day off from work and just join the party in the city, and then take a nice little walk from the city towards the stadium, and hopefully get in touch with some Czech supporters, with some Portuguese supporters, maybe with people from all around the world, just coming to town and celebrating football and doing just party together.
That would be wonderful, something to look forward to. We will also bring you some special content regarding East German football. We're going to call it GDR specials. GDR, of course, for the German Democratic Republic. We're going to dive a little bit into history. about East German clubs, how they were founded, what is the background to this, and what happened in Leipzig. And maybe we already get a little bit of a link to nowadays and what kind of relevance that has. But that's going to be towards more at the end of the summer. Once again, thank you everyone who's been listening to us. If you are still listening, wow, really comment you on your stamina. And if you like this podcast, please subscribe to it on your favorite platform. If you'd like to leave us a comment, you can send this to us by email as well. And again, the email address is talktous@rbleglobaltracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter. The username is at podcast_RBL. So until next time, we would really like to thank you for listening and sticking with us. We wish you a wonderful summer, or if you're on the other side of the earth, well, not so bad winter. And but your winters are not as bad as ours. Anyways, enjoy, have a good time. All we need to say now is, auf geht's, Leipziger Jungs.